Hello, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for joining us this morning as we celebrate Founders Day and culminate our 90th anniversary campaign. Our lab's namesake, Ernest Orlando Lawrence, was awarded full use of a building on the UC Berkeley campus on August 26, 1931. And who could have imagined that 90 years later, his modest rad lab would become one of the world's most impactful research institutions. Our year-long celebration of this important anniversary has given us a wonderful opportunity to look back on the lab's many scientific achievements. From pioneering medical imaging to bringing safe drinking water to millions, to creating a powerful genetic engineering tool, Berkeley Lab's impact on the world has been profound. And we're not done yet. This year has also allowed us to look forward and imagine what the next 90 years will bring. Recent breakthroughs, from the creation of a new completely recyclable plastic to advancements in understanding the early universe, have the potential to change our world in meaningful ways. These discoveries would not be possible without the contributions of each and every person at this lab. I'm so proud of the dedication to the lab's mission to serve humankind through science that you all have shown. This has been especially true over the last year and a half, which has been challenging us in so many new ways. As we look forward to the future and our next 90 years, I'm excited to work with all of you as we continue to develop meaningful scientific solutions to the world's most intractable energy challenges, to help train the next generation of scientists and engineers, and to ensure that these things happen in a manner that benefits everyone. And now, as part of our final anniversary event, we have an exciting program for you today. We are honored to be joined by Energy Secretary Jennifer Granholm, who will make brief remarks and take a few questions from lab employees later. But first, you'll hear a few words from Carol Burns, Michael Brandt, and a few special guests. You'll listen to a conversation between two lab staff and two young people interested in pursuing a career in STEM, and find out who the winners of the Happy Birthday contest are. Before I hand the virtual mic to Carol Burns, the lab's new Deputy Director for Research and Chief Research Officer, we have a special video capturing the highlights of our 90th anniversary celebration.
We are Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory.
In the next couple of years, we are going to go after the fundamentals of negative emissions.
We definitely have the best view from a lab, but today we're going to look under the dome.
You love catching the world doing something bizarre, and it was doing something bizarre.
Happy 90th birthday, Berkeley Lab.
My research right now is doing something that's never been done before.
That was a fantastic video. What a great way to capture the lab's 90th anniversary content in 60 seconds. My name is Carol Burns, and I am the lab's new Deputy Director for Research and Chief Research Officer, and it's a pleasure to be able to speak with you today. I officially joined the lab on August 1st, and I would like to start by saying how excited I am to be here at Berkeley Lab. I come to you by way of the Junior Lab at Los Alamos, where not too long ago they celebrated their own 75th anniversary. Being at Berkeley Lab is in many ways a homecoming for me. I received my PhD from Cal, and while I was there, I had the opportunity to spend time on the Hill. This return to Berkeley allows me to be part of a national laboratory that consistently leads in scientific productivity and impact. As the birthplace of team science, and with our mission of bringing science solutions to the world, Berkeley will have much to contribute in the years ahead, both to the scientific enterprise and to the missions of the Department of Energy. Berkeley Lab's areas of core research and its approach to cross-discipline engagement create an enduring foundation of fundamental research that lays the path for new solutions. And our pioneering spirit is not only in our basic research, but also in finding innovative ways to contribute to the ever-changing energy economy, as we have done since the 1970s. Your individual and our collective efforts are integral to the success of the science enterprise at Berkeley Lab. In the weeks ahead, I look forward to learning more about the various ways our operations and research teams contribute to the lab's research ecosystem to position us for the decades to come. Thanks very much for the warm welcome, and I look forward to working with you all. Now, before I hand you back to Mike, it's my pleasure to kick off the announcement of the winners of the lab's Happy Birthday video contest. We received many great entries, and I hope you were all able to watch all the videos. In third place, I'm pleased to invite Melissa Abdelbaki to the virtual stage. Melissa wrote a beautiful poem inspired by 90 years of research at the laboratory. Congratulations, Melissa. And now let's watch the video of Melissa's winning poem.
Congratulations, Melissa. That was a beautiful poem. Before I turn the stage over to Michael Brandt, our Deputy Lab Director of Operations and Chief Operating Officer, we have a special message from Senator Alex Padilla.
Hi, I'm Senator Alex Padilla, and I have the honor of representing California in the United States Senate. I want to wish the Berkeley National Laboratory a happy 90th birthday and congratulate all of you on the legacy that you're upholding. Scientists at this lab have led revolutions in human understanding, from discovering 16 elements to pioneering more efficient light bulbs and batteries. The work of the Berkeley Lab has improved countless lives. Your innovations power electric vehicles, purify drinking water, and help treat disease. And you continue to lead the effort to research and fight the climate crisis. I earned my degree in mechanical engineering from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, so I know firsthand the value of investing in our research institutions. I'm proud to be a champion for the national labs in Congress. Thank you, all of you, for your contributions to the Berkeley Lab's legacy of innovation, and best wishes for the many decades to come.
A great message from Senator Padilla. Hello, everyone. I'm Michael Brandt, Deputy Lab Director for Operations and Chief Operating Officer. The 90th anniversary celebration has provided a wonderful opportunity to reflect on our humble beginnings, growing from a single building in 1931 into a 200-acre campus with nearly 100 buildings, which enables thousands of researchers to make scientific discoveries that benefit humankind. And the lab's future is bright. Our campus continues to grow in exciting ways. Our newest building, the Integrative Genomics Building, where we hosted Secretary Granholm last week, will be joined in the near future by 2 new facilities for biological and environmental research to complete the Bayview campus. Developments are also moving forward on Charter Hill, which is home to the Advanced Light Source, Liquid Sunlight Alliance, and the Joint Center for Energy Storage Research. They will be joined by several new state-of-the-art buildings designed to advance innovations in chemistry and materials research. And we're making improvements in our aging infrastructure across the lab, with a goal to ensure that we have a safe, secure, and sustainable research environment to support our program needs. Now, we often talk about the impact of our research, but the lab would not be what it is without the people who support our science. And I'm so pleased that the 90th anniversary celebration has allowed us to shine the spotlight on the staff whose efforts underpin our operational needs and keep the lab going 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Throughout the last year and a half, we have been presented with many challenges, and I'm proud of the way that we have persevered. We've shown our resilience, and we've done so by working together to find safe and new ways to continue our scientific mission. Now, before I turn the proceedings over to Jen Tang, the lab's Director of Community Relations, and who will moderate a conversation between two lab employees and two young people who are interested in pursuing a career in STEM, it's my pleasure to announce the second place winner of the lab's Happy Birthday video contest. Please join me in welcoming to the virtual stage, Karenlingua. Karen, thank you for sharing this story about your family, and it's truly a small world. And so now, let's watch Karen's winning video.
My name is Karenlingua, and I work in procurement here at Berkeley Lab. So here's a fun fact about me. My maternal grandmother was born and raised in a very small town in the southeast corner of South Dakota, and she actually knew Dr. Ernest Lawrence, founder of Berkeley Lab. When she talked about him, she would call him Ernie, I'm not making that up, and she would say that she thought he was a little bit nerdy, with a laugh, and that they all knew he was destined for something great. And now I'm proud to be working here at the lab that he founded. It's such a small world. So on behalf of my family, I want to wish my Berkeley Lab family a very happy 90th birthday.
What an incredible story. Thank you for sharing it with us, Karen. And hello, everyone. My name is Jen Tang, and as Michael said, I'm the Director of Community Relations at the lab. So the dual themes of our 90th anniversary celebration have been to celebrate our past and imagine our future. And this next conversation is forward-looking and focused on how the lab is helping prepare the next generation of scholars to become tomorrow's leaders and problem solvers. And it's my pleasure to introduce the participants of this conversation. First, let me welcome Anand Prakash, who's a Senior Scientific Engineering Associate in the Energy Technologies area's Building Technology and Urban Systems Division. Welcome, Anand. Second, we have Sarah Harman joining us. Sarah is the Communications and Outreach Manager at the Joint Bioenergy Institute. Hey, Sarah. Next, we have Gerald Little, who's currently a summer program manager in the Bay Area with the Rising Sun Center for Opportunity. Gerald's also a student right now at Berkeley City College, where he's majoring in business administration with ambitions to explore and dive deeper into the field of academics, youth development, as well as program management. And last but not least, we have Bianca Cesara joining us. Bianca is just beginning her senior year at Alameda High School, and she was an intern at the lab this summer, where she participated in both the experiences in research and science accelerating girls engagement in STEM programs. Thanks so much, everyone. Anand, Sarah, Gerald, and Bianca, welcome to the virtual stage. When I speak with community members about Berkeley Lab, I like to tell them how people here are motivated by a desire to make a positive impact on the world. So Anand and Sarah, can you tell us a little bit about yourselves and why you've chosen to work at the lab? Anand, let's have you go first.
So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Anand Prakash, and as Jen mentioned, I'm an engineer in the Energy Technologies area, Building Technology and Urban Systems Division. I've been at the lab for almost 3.5 years, and my work usually involves developing and deploying software-based tools for improving building operations. I help buildings come online into the internet, how advanced controllers can help reduce the energy consumption and help the utility grid. I have a bachelor's in computer science, and I came from India, and I came to US to pursue a graduate degree in energy science. After grad school, I wanted to work in the research field, and I also wanted to apply both my backgrounds in computer science and energy science. I'd become aware of some of the lab's research through a keynote speech at a conference in India in 2015. The key speaker was a scientist in the energy technologies area, and his work resonated with me because it applied network technology and communication protocols to the buildings and the energy sector. There are very few organizations across the world that perform this kind of work. And ever since then, I've been following the interdisciplinary research that happens at the lab and the challenging questions that we work on here. So after a few years, I was actually hired by the same keynote speaker, and I work with him now. So it's been great.
Fantastic. Thanks, Anand, for sharing with us that story. Sarah, let's hear from you.
Hi, thanks so much for having me. So I'm Sarah Harman, and I am the manager of communications and outreach at our Emory Station East facility. So the organizations in Emeryville are Agile Biofoundry, the Advanced Biofuels and Bioprocess Development Unit, or ABPDU, and the Joint Bioenergy Institute. And I also am the social media lead for biosciences. And so I have led a very science adjacent life, even though I myself am not a researcher. And it's because I believe that, science is so important in the world that we live in. And so I think I'll have many people arguing with me on this, but I have the best job at Berkeley Lab because I get to help people learn about science. I get to bring science to young people and introduce them to what's possible. And I also get to communicate outside, beyond our walls and within our walls, both virtual and real walls, and share with people science in general and the wonderful science that's happening at Berkeley Lab. And so it's such an opportunity to work with at a place that has such a storied history. It's wonderful.
Thanks, Sarah. And thanks, Anand, for those answers. It's always really interesting to hear why people work at the lab. Let me turn it now to Gerald and Bianca. We want to hear a little bit about you as well. Gerald, tell us a little bit about yourself and about the Rising Sun Center for Opportunity. We're curious to know how you got involved with Rising Sun.
Thanks, Jennifer. Greetings, everyone. I'm Gerald. I'm a summer program here at Rising Sun Center for Opportunity. We're based out in Emeryville, and our mission is to provide better and career pathways as a part of our path towards environmental resilience. So my function at Rising Sun is to provide, train, mentor youth in servicing our communities that are being affected by climate change, and that's through serving the households with free and low-cost energy efficiency kits, whether that be lighting and water-saving devices, along with educating the community on reducing their carbon footprint, especially since in our generation, lower income communities are more impacted by climate change. And so we definitely want to be able to give them the tools and the education to support them.
Fantastic, thanks, Gerald. And so Rising Sun, can you tell us a little bit more about where Rising Sun is in the Bay Area? And I think you also are in part of the Central Valley as well, right?
Yeah, so we recently expanded to the Greater Bay Area. We have one office here in Emeryville, on the border of Oakland and Emeryville. And we also have one Stockton office that services the Stockton, Modesto, and Manteca areas as well.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Gerald. Now, let me turn it over to Bianca. We'd love to hear a little bit about you as well, and how you heard about the lab's summer programs. I'm curious to know what made you interested in participating. And I think, yep, there we go. We've got a slide from you to share with us.
Hi, I'm Bianca Cesar. Thank you, Jen. I'm a student at Alameda High School, a senior, and I've spent the past 2 years in our school's biotech program learning what it's like to use science in a career when usually science at school is just knowledge or background information. So having those exciting and engaging labs in my biotech classroom definitely pushed me to have this little bud growing that maybe I should pursue science. So when my biotech teacher, Miss Alyssa Heft, who has graduated from UC Berkeley, introduced to me experiences in research and SAGE summer camp, I was all for it and I applied immediately. And I'm very glad to have gotten in and even continue on as a student assistant at the lab to continue doing what I was doing as an intern in the experiences in research, which you can see on the left here. I made some graphics, which are maps of J-based paper partners, and a little intro animation taking switchgrass into biofuels. And here on the right, we can see some of the work we do at SAGE Summer Camp, which includes our Chibitronic circuit, which we coded to make a traffic light, and some microscopy pictures, and some solar energy projects that we did.
Fantastic. Thanks so much for sharing a little bit of your work with us, and appreciate you joining us for both programs this summer. Now, let me turn it back to Sarah and Anand. You've both been dedicated volunteers and mentors at the lab, and even before you came to the lab, were interested in volunteering and mentoring young people. So I'd like to hear from you both about how you got involved in mentoring, and maybe some of the lessons you've learned from being a mentor. Sarah, let's start with you.
Sure. Thank you. So I think I have always worked at publicly funded organizations. And so I really take it seriously that not only do we have the responsibility to do our best science for the public, but we also have a responsibility to leave the future in good hands. And so that's why I think mentorship is so important. And I have had the privilege of mentoring several undergrads throughout my career. And I've also had the opportunity to be the manager of many mentorship programs. And I was so excited to find out that I could be a mentor at Berkeley Lab. I thought maybe, oh, I'm not a researcher, there's not a place for me to mentor here, but there actually is. And so I had the wonderful pleasure of mentoring Bianca and several other students this summer. And I'm going to keep doing it because, first of all, it's such a great opportunity. And it leaves me so inspired to see that our future is in such great hands.
Fantastic. Thanks, Sarah. Anand, tell us a little bit about yourself and your experiences serving as a mentor.
Yeah, so I want you to know that I'm still new to mentoring, so I'm still figuring things out. But just after I started working at the lab, I got an opportunity to mentor some students that are actually part of the Rising Sun summer program. So they had come onto the lab for a visit, and I was taking part in their one-day activity. And the first few times I volunteered, it's because I had some spare time, and I was like, sure, why not? But with some engagement with my supervisor and my division director, I kept signing off to be a volunteer over and over again. And over time, I began to realize the importance of these activities. As a lab, I think it helps us future STEM employee professionals. And we need employees with diverse cultural and academic backgrounds to solve the problems that we're trying to solve. Additionally, these are like really smart and motivated kids. And we hired a lot of them after the internship programs as staff here, and they easily help us, ease our workload. So I believe from a student's perspective, some of these activities and other programs hosted by the IDEA team and the K-12 and workforce development education group introduce students to who we are, what we do, and maybe they'll think of us when they start their careers. Through some of the longer mentorship programs, such as the DOE SULI program, or the Berkeley Lab Directors Representative program, or the SAGE program that Bianca is part of, I believe it helps students kickstart their STEM career or identify what they're interested in. I also believe these programs work very closely with local schools, and they also provide opportunity for students from underrepresented communities as well. I believe it also helps some students identify that research or STEM is not what they are interested in. And I think that's also equally as important. And I think these are like significant reasons that why someone should help mentor some students. And that's why I'm going to keep continuing it.
Awesome. Thanks, Anand. So actually, for you both, Sarah and Anand, do you have any advice? There might be some folks listening to the presentation today who might be curious to explore mentorship. What are your recommendations for how they might be able to get started here at the lab?
Maybe I can go here. I would say diversity.lba.gov is the starting point, because they keep updated on the programs that are happening. There's a lab ambassador program at the lab that helps you go to conferences that are aimed for STEM education and minority communities. There are a lot of ERG groups at the lab that we could take part in. The K-12 group program at the lab also has a lot of cool programs that we could volunteer in. Additionally, Jen, you send out emails asking for volunteers for other programs. So all the lab elements newsletter are all great resources for someone to start volunteering.
Thank you. Sarah, I don't know if you have anything you want to add to that.
Yeah, I just think that what I would add to that is that I don't think there are a shortage of opportunities. And so if you're interested, please seek them out. And I think even if you're wondering, like, do I have something to offer? I think the answer is probably yes. And especially I know that when I was considering, oh, working in communications, do I have a project that would be suitable for this? You know, I reached out to the K through 12 office and they were wonderful in helping me realize, oh yes, science communication is a great opportunity for you know, our science interns. And so I think using those resources and really thinking broadly about what you might have to offer is probably the best thing that I would recommend, because I think the skills that our future scientists need are very broad, and they also just need the opportunity to try something on. And so a lot of us at Berkeley Lab can help students try on a STEM career in a variety of different ways.
That's great advice. Thanks, Anand and Sarah. Those are really inspiring stories. And for those who might be interested, you can actually learn more about opportunities to share your time via the lab's new volunteer portal, which is at lbl.galaxydigital.com. And we're going to put that link in the chat. So let me actually turn it back to Bianca and Gerald. We're curious to know, have participating in the labs and Rising Suns programs made you want to pursue a career in STEM? And so the second question is, what has it meant to have an organization like Berkeley Lab support you and other young people who are interested in science? Bianca, let's have you go first this time.
Yeah, like I mentioned before, I was already developing an interest through biotech, but being a part of these programs has definitely solidified my desire to be a part of the STEM field as a future as a future career. And going through these programs has taught me that there's a lot more opportunities than I initially thought. Talking to all the different scientists from the various fields and doing all these different projects has shown me that there are a lot more fields, there are a lot more roles, and there's no one career path you can take to get to a good place in life, especially in the fields of science. And with how enthralling some of these fields are to me, and the plethora of opportunities and the likelihood that I'll find a path just right for me, why wouldn't I go into science, right? It's so fun and interesting. And I think with Berkeley Lab supporting the youth who are interested in science, I think it helps develop an interest of science in general, and also like taking it as a career rather than just as a school subject. And it also helps build experience in the field and develop a better perspective just on the field in general. And it's more than just a shiny gem to put on your resume. And with all this interest developing in the youth, I think that we're making more people who are willing to solve the world's biggest issues and spreading more awareness.
Great answer. Thanks, Bianca. Gerald, we'd love to hear from you as well.
Thanks, Jennifer. That's a great question. So working with Rising Sun pre-COVID, I actually got to service houses throughout the Bay Area. And my role previously as an energy specialist was very humbling to me, especially knowing that a lot of the lower income households that we serviced didn't even have furniture in their homes. And so being able to support our communities, especially neighbors and people along the Bay Area and Greater Bay Area, we saw a lot of commonality with the climate change issues. And so I think the biggest impact that we have for our youth at Rising Sun and the supporters that we have at Berkeley Lab, it's really good to see that inspiration is a big thing. Especially when I was inspired as an energy specialist, seeing that there are things that we can do to help our community and help the world in general. So inspiration and having a humble background with Rising Sun and great supporters from Berkeley Lab is really great.
That's fantastic. So, you know, I mentioned a little earlier in the conversation, you're at Berkeley City College right now studying with an interest in, you know, actually a number of fields. Tell us how you think you might be thinking about what to do after you graduate.
Definitely. I'm pursuing a degree in business administration, but I do have volunteer and professional work in elementary school students and middle school students, and I feel like working with kids is such a very, very pleasing and humbling field, especially because the kids are very, very diverse. They're very energetic. I feel that in my workplace with environmental justice, I feel like it's really, really nice to be able to inspire them to accept new challenges and be who they want to grow up into. And yeah, I think that's a really, really nice way to get them started into STEM if they're interested.
That's great. Thanks, Gerald, for doing what you're doing.
Thanks, Jen.
Yeah. So, as we look toward the future, one of the biggest challenges we're facing is the climate crisis. And I'd like to hear from all of you on this next question, given your expertise and your experiences. What do you think is a particularly challenging barrier for humanity in fighting climate change? And how can an institution like Berkeley Lab help overcome that barrier? Anand, let's have you start us off.
Thank you. I believe we're not in shortage of technologies. And as we're developing these new technologies and moving towards a cleaner future, the biggest challenge is going to be a just transition, which basically means we can't transition to a clean energy economy without bringing everyone along. If just a part of a population installs solar panels and drives electric vehicles, it wouldn't matter unless if the rest of the population are still driving gas-powered vehicles. We also need to make sure that the disadvantaged groups participate in making this transition happen and that they are involved in the decision-making process. This is why the outreach activities and the mentorship programs at the lab are very significant, and we need to continue working with more closely with organizations such as Rising Sun. At my division, some of the work we do includes research in building scale or like large district scale energy systems, in energy resilience, and on like cool surfaces. So given the energy inequity that exists today, it's more probable that underserved communities are more prone to prolonged heat waves, wildfires, and energy outages. The work that we are trying to do is like help deploy these sustainable technologies in an equitable manner that can help us achieve this transition towards a cleaner future. So basically, like bring everyone together, and get, because we're not short of technology. We need to make sure that everyone's in on it.
Great, thanks, Anand. Bianca, let's go to you next.
I definitely agree with Anand. There's definitely a huge plethora of technologies we can use. And I think the biggest challenge is the complexity of the problem. So if we pursue one or two solutions, which seem very good in theory, they might also affect some people negatively whose livelihoods and lives in general are just dependent on some of the things we may be replacing, right? So I think the biggest part of the issue in transitioning would be considering all of those aspects, all of those factors, and how they affect various groups and individuals. And I think Berkeley Lab is a good institution for this problem because it's the crossroads between many fields of science, right? And I think that's where the best solutions are found, not looking just at one field or being closed-minded or tunnel visioned on, oh, this is a solution. I think I'm a specialist in this. I think this is a good way to go, but working together and collaborating as Berkeley Lab together and putting all of our brains into this huge issue that's very difficult to solve. I think that's the best way to find the solution to climate change.
Thanks, Bianca. You definitely hit the nail on the head there. We have a long history of team science at Berkeley Lab with different disciplines working together in service of the greater good. So you're spot on. Sarah, let's have you answer the question next.
Yeah, sure. So I think, this kind of expands on what Anand and Bianca have already said, but I think our communities and societies are built around structures and practices that we now know are unsustainable. And so one of the bigger challenges is, do we integrate new solutions into this existing structure, or do we have to start over and rebuild? And I think this is exactly what Berkeley Lab is prepared to do. I mean, really the whole national lab system, but I'm obviously partial to Berkeley Lab working here. And I think our researchers are so conscientious about how our science can fit into the real world. And we do have this intrinsic culture of collaborative team science. And so that just has us positioned to be a real leader in this. And when I think about the work that we do, for example, in biosciences where I work, there's a lot of room for biology to do the heavy lifting. And we can promote the circular bioeconomy by integrating solutions into our current industrial practices to increase their sustainability. So for example, we can engineer crops to grow in marginal places. And this is going to be more of an issue as climate change persists. And using biology and biomanufacturing, we can actually turn crop and other agricultural waste that no one wants into something that everyone needs, like biofuels and plastic replacements. And so in order to do this, we need a diverse group of creative research expertise, and we have that at Berkeley Lab.
Thanks, Sarah. Let's see, Gerald, let's hear from you, last but not least.
Thanks, Jen. So I believe that the biggest thing, apart from you guys, great points, by the way, I think education is probably one of the also proven factors, is that a lot of the people that we serve don't know that there's a big risk that's coming forth. We may understand the issues that's going on now, but it's not going to affect us now. It's going to affect future generations. Something that we hold for our youth every week is a professional development workshop on eco-literacy and environmental sustainability. We like to reiterate things like the Green New Deal and other aspects of part of climate change that we may take part of that we don't necessarily see. Fashion industry and things like plastics in the ocean, things like that. And I feel like education is a big thing, especially when it comes to youth, like acknowledging the problems at hand or coming forth in the future.
Thanks, Gerald. And thanks all of you for those thoughtful answers. So it's now time for our last question. And so I'd like to hear from all of you. What keeps you hopeful in the current situation? Bianca, let's start with you.
I mean, honestly, just seeing all the work done here at Berkeley Lab has definitely instilled a new hope for me. I've never taken physics before, so this is probably an inaccurate analogy, but I think that the work done here at Berkeley Lab is building a lot of potential energy and research that can be turned into kinetic energy, which is solutions for the world. So I just think that seeing all of these people passionate about solving the world's problems has just made me hopeful. Yeah.
Love it. Anand.
I want to add to Bianca's answer. So there's a lot of research that's happening here, but there's also a lot of potential students coming in who are interested in this field and who are very conscious about things that are happening. So I think it's a lot of collaborations and creative minds at work, both new minds at all minds, so that we can help the transition to this cleaner future. And that's what makes me hopeful.
Thanks. Gerald.
Thanks. I want to add on to Anand's answer. I feel like inspiration is a big thing. And when I started off with Rising Sun, I was really kind of oblivious to the facts about climate change. I mean, I grew up in an environmental sustainable household. My mom is an environmental studies major, and she told me not to use plastic straws, things like that. And I feel like being able to see that there's more than capable youth that are willing to take on the challenges that we have in the future are a great steps to pass on the legacy that Berkeley Lab and any of our partners have.
Thanks, Gerald. And Sarah.
Yeah, I think echoing what everyone else has said, definitely working at Berkeley Lab makes me feel like society is going to be able to meet this challenge, because I see firsthand all of the great science that's going on, and I get to meet the dedicated and creative people that are working really hard on this. And then I also get the opportunity to interact with our future scientists like Bianca. And I feel like we're as prepared for the future as we are for the present. And, you know, this 90th, I've only worked at Berkeley Lab for about a year. So this 90th anniversary has really helped me learn so much about our role in society. And, you know, Ernest Lawrence was a visionary, but I don't think he could have possibly imagined a future with a tool like CRISPR or, medical imaging. And so thinking about that those tools didn't exist very long ago, I have really high hopes for what we'll be celebrating in 10 years on our 100th anniversary. And so I do have a lot of hope, and I'm really grateful for that.
Fantastic. Well, thank you all for taking the time to talk with us today. Anand and Sarah, please keep up the great work. And Bianca and Gerald, please know that you can count on the lab to support you on making even more positive impacts in the world. So please thank me in joining our speakers today. And with that, let me hand it back over to Director Witherell.
Thank you. Thank you, Sarah, Anand, Bianca, Gerald, and Jen for that conversation. It was great. Last Friday, we were fortunate to host here at the lab the Secretary and Congresswoman Barbara Lee for an in-person visit to the lab. And we're so pleased that the Secretary could be back with us again for our Founders Day celebration. Now, as some of you know, Secretary Granholm has roots here in Berkeley. She received her undergraduate degree here at UC Berkeley and later spent time at the lab as an affiliate with the Energy Technologies area. And we believe the Secretary holds a special place in her heart for Berkeley Lab. Before we invite Secretary Granholm to the stage, we have a special message from the President of the University of California and my boss, Michael Drake.
Thank you, Director Witherell, and good afternoon. I'm honored to join the Berkeley Lab community virtually today. Like the University of California, Berkeley Lab was founded with the mission of creating knowledge in service of the public good. This past year and a half has only reinforced the importance of investing in research to generate discoveries that benefit us all. This commitment to science and innovation has always been at the heart of the partnership between UC, Berkeley Lab, and the U.S. Department of Energy. UC has helped to lead Berkeley Lab since 1931. This collaboration has contributed solutions to some of the most pressing and profound scientific challenges facing our planet. The lab continues to uphold its long tradition of excellence today because of all of you, the scientists, engineers, technologists, and administrators who support this world-class research. I'd like to thank all of you for your dedicated service to the lab, the university, and the nation. With the commemoration of Founders Day and the ongoing celebration of the lab's 90th anniversary, I hope you feel immense pride in everything the lab has achieved so far and what's yet to come. Looking ahead to the next 90 years, I know the future of science will be forged here, and I can't wait to see what you do next. Thank you. And now, on behalf of the University of California, I am proud and honored to introduce the 16th U.S. Secretary of Energy, who happens to be very familiar with UC Berkeley and Berkeley Lab, the Honorable Jennifer Granholm. Secretary Granholm, we are deeply grateful for your partnership and your support for cutting-edge science and research at Berkeley Lab and beyond. During your virtual visit today, we look forward to hearing about your priorities and goals for the future and discussing science solutions that will make the world a better place for all. On behalf of the entire UC community, welcome back and thank you.
Well, thank you so much to President Drake. Hello, everybody. It's so great to be with you all after meeting with your leadership in person last Friday. As Mike was just saying, it was a fantastic visit with Congresswoman Barbara Lee. Thank you, Mike, and your team for being such terrific hosts and for showing off all this groundbreaking research and your facilities. And as you noted, and as I said then, since I taught at UC Berkeley for a number of years after being governor of Michigan, I really do feel like LBNL is my home lab. So I have a very sincere fondness for you all and the work that you're doing. So, you know, it's amazing. I just listened to the latter part of the presentation with, you know, with the future of science, with all of you who were speaking. It is amazing to be with you today on this 90th year Founders Day celebration, because as you all know, throughout its history, the Berkeley Lab has really shown that team science in service of the nation and the world can totally transform lives and communities and problems. I mean, you all know this very well, and I appreciate the reminder on Friday that this is where scientists did create CRISPR, and it's where the scientists confirmed the Big Bang and explained photosynthesis and invented the cyclotron and discovered the accelerating expansion of the universe and earned 14 Nobel Prizes. Such a treat for me to meet your latest Nobelist, Jennifer Granholm, on Friday. So none of these accomplishments, of course, would have been possible without the people behind the science, both the researchers and the support staff that make this amazing work happen every single day. So I want to recognize your dedication, especially during what I know has been a really tough year and a half of the pandemic. You know, plus you've got wildfires and smoke and power shutoffs, all that have impacted lab operations and certainly impacted your lives as humans who may live in the Bay Area. So, you know, I don't want to inject politics into our discussion at all, but I do want to acknowledge one thing, which is what some in our DOE family, particularly at the national labs, what some have experienced over the past couple of years, because some of the scientists at our national labs have felt ignored or slighted or even attacked. I don't know if this is true at LBNL. I certainly hope not, but I know some scientists may have had their studies blocked or delayed, or felt the integrity of their work was put into jeopardy. The suspension of diversity and equity and inclusion training efforts made some feel unwelcome. And, you know, some labs have had dear colleagues who decided to leave. And whether or not this has been your experience, I just want you to know that President Biden, and certainly I and everyone in our leadership ranks, are totally committed to you, to support you and your research, to invest in your success. You know, this administration believes that investing in science and research makes America and the world safer and more prosperous. You know, in his very first week, President Biden directed every federal agency to make evidence-based decisions guided by the best available science and data, and to ensure that our research efforts are all conducted with integrity. We see the national labs as America's crown jewels of innovation. And I hope that's evident in, for example, the president's 2022 proposed budget for DOE, which requests an increase in funding for our Office of Science and the national labs. I hope it's evident in the president's Build Back Better agenda strategy that's making its way through Congress, which will hopefully cement America's place as an innovation leader. Those investments, I know, are going to help us address today's most pressing challenges, like the climate crisis. I know that Berkeley Lab is leading on solutions like the world's most advanced climate models, like cool roofs, next generation batteries, you name it. And all of those investments are going to help us to address, you know, tomorrow's challenges, even before we know about them, which is, you know, why these investments include, for example, increased support for fundamental science and facilities that are here at LBNL and our other national labs. So to tackle tomorrow's challenges, we've got to invest in tomorrow's workforce as well. And DOE has made new investments in developing a new generation of scientific and energy leaders that look like America. We've announced, for example, $17 million for higher ed programs, especially at HBCUs and other minority serving institutions, to bring more diversity to STEM fields, very necessary. We announced $100 million to support early career scientists, including 5 Berkeley researchers. It is so great to see what Director Witherell and the rest of your leadership have done to increase diversity at this lab, from, I think you told me, doubling the number of women in senior leadership positions, developing new programs to support early career scientists, to inspire STEM students who may be in high school to go into STEM, even though they may not even know it. You know, these efforts are just one example, of course, of how the Berkeley Lab is actively creating a better and safer and more inclusive tomorrow. So, over the past 90 years, this lab has just made, as you have all noted, enormous contributions to our nation, to the world. And this is a Founders Day celebration. Some people are finders of the world, they're observers. And some people are founders, they're makers, they're movers. So here is my toast with my coffee cup to the next 90 years of Berkeley Lab founding the world. So I want to express my gratitude for being invited to share a few words. And I'm happy to take any questions too.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much, Secretary, for those remarks. And thanks for making the time to take a few questions from our employees. So our first question is going to come from Katie Christensen, who is currently serving as the interim area deputy for biosciences area. Katie, please join us on stage.
Thank you, Mike. Secretary Granholm, we're excited to see that recent funding opportunities from the Office of Energy Efficiency and Renewable Energy are asking for projects to include a diversity, equity, and inclusion plan. What are some of the outcomes you're hoping to see from these plans?
Right, diversity, equity, inclusion. We're making this effort, you should know, in response to the president's historic executive order on racial equity and federal support for underserved communities. So DOE is taking a comprehensive look at how we can incorporate equity into really all of our services and all of our processes. And that includes, for example, how we engage with underserved communities to ensure that we are actually meeting their needs, or who we engage in our merit review process, and how we support entrepreneurs and researchers from underrepresented backgrounds. We're also working really hard to improve our own DEI efforts within the federal workforce and talent processes. We are dedicated now to removing barriers to career opportunities and sustaining this inclusive and welcoming environment. So I'm very optimistic that these efforts are going to transform the way we approach DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion here at DOE, and hopefully at all the national labs as well. I know the labs like y'all are leading the way on many of these topics. I would love to hear from you on your thoughts about how we could even be doing this better.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Secretary. Now we'll go to our second question, which comes from Christine Duchner, a program operations analyst with the Earth and Environmental Sciences area. Christine, please join us on stage.
Thank you, Mike. Secretary Granholm, in recent discussions about place-based research, Justice 40, and earlier today about what we need to tackle climate change, we see a clear need for input from non-STEM disciplines, for example, social sciences and economics. But currently there is no way for the labs to fund this kind of participation. So how can we develop the muscle for STEM and non-STEM interdisciplinary work that addresses the science solution and also the impact on society?
Yeah, thanks, Christine. What a great question. It's something we've all got to be doing, right? A much more inclusive and comprehensive look at problems. Historically, other agencies have really led on social science research, but we fully recognize that we've got to get out of these traditional silos and work together to achieve the goals of Justice 40 and other problems as well, and making meaningful progress on energy justice means that we have to fundamentally rethink how we partner with and how we prioritize communities that should be at the front of the line for clean energy benefits. And that includes communities of color that have been disproportionately affected by pollution, as well as fossil fuel communities that are really hard hit by the economic transition. We're also increasing diversity in STEM and non-STEM admissions at research institutions to create a diverse pipeline for the DOE labs, like expanding the Minority Education Institution Partnership Program. The president's FY22 budget request also includes new investments at the Office of Science that are going to help communities evaluate the societal and the environmental impacts of current and future energy policies. I'm also really excited about preliminary planning at the Office of Science for a new climate lab, which was first proposed by President Biden in the American Jobs Plan. And the climate lab is going to operate in partnership with an HBCU and potentially other MSIs, minority serving institutions, to evaluate the impacts of climate change on frontline and fence line communities. And it'll work in close coordination with those communities along with the existing national labs. And again, I welcome your thoughts on how we can continue to improve our DOE programs to make sure that we're supporting you and effectively carrying out this Justice 40 initiative, especially the environmental justice component, which the president has put forward, saying that 40% of the investments from, for example, his Build Back Better plan from the energy components should go to these frontline communities and fossil communities that are in transition. But it can't, we have to embrace a broad view in order for this to be effective. The saying, nothing about us without us, that means we have to be inclusive. And that means our researchers on the social science side, but also our community partners at the local level all have to be at the table when we talk about justice. So.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for those insights, Secretary. So up next, we have Noelle Bhaktian, who's the Executive Director of the Lab's Energy Storage Center, which I talked to you about last Friday, and she has our next question. So Noelle, could you join us?
Thanks, Mike. Hi, Secretary Granholm. We are so excited that the DOE labs will have a key role in the administration's climate change moonshot. And of course, the focus on the Earth shots will certainly advance the science and technology needed to achieve a low carbon economy. Would you mind sharing if there are plans to formalize a larger national roadmap to achieve the 2035 and 2050 goals and how the Earth shots fit into that roadmap?
Yep, 100%. Thank you so much. In my opinion, those energy Earth shots are one of the most exciting things that we've done so far at DOE in this administration. We've announced 2, we got more to go. The president's goal of reaching 100% clean power by 2035 is obviously vital to reaching net zero economy by 2050. And since electricity accounts for 28% of US emissions. And so many of the technologies that we need to reach those goals are ready to be deployed today, right? So we've got to work on deploying solar and wind, but while we're working to deploy as fast as we can those technologies that are off the shelf and ready to go, we also need to focus on the remaining breakthroughs that will get us to 100%. And that's where the Earth shots come in. It is a huge barrier to deployment of new technologies. That's cost, right? And so it's not enough to research new technologies. We've got to get them out of the lab. We got to get them demonstrated, and we have to get them to market in order to address climate change with the urgency that we need. With the, we just got to go. Our hair should be on fire, and some of these technologies are not quite ready to be off the shelf yet. So our first Earth shot, which is the hydrogen shot, sets this goal of cutting the cost of clean hydrogen by 80%. And that would mean it would cost $1 for 1 kilogram in 1 decade. And then the second Earth shot is focused on slashing the cost of long duration storage by 90% this decade. And these, if we were able to do this, these would be absolutely game changing in our fight against climate change, and that means that they would be part of the solution to get to clean, dispatchable, reliable baseload power. But we're just getting started. Really, we plan to announce more energy Earth shots in the coming months. And I know the lab has been really helpful on advising us as to the array of possibilities for Earth shots into the future. So stay tuned on that.
Thank you again, Secretary. So we'll have time for one more question, and it's going to come from Sanya Gancho, a project scientist who is part of the Dark Energy Spectroscopic Instrument Project. So Satya, please join us on the stage.
Thank you, Mike. Secretary Granholm, what would you say are the responsibilities of national labs, such as Berkeley Lab, to the American people, or speaking as a foreign scientist here, to the world?
Oh, that's a great question too. Thanks for that, Sancho. We call the national labs our crown jewels for a reason, because we recognize that the science that's being done every day here at Berkeley and the rest of our labs is in service of the nation. That's because DOE is America's Solutions Department. We are tackling the nation's toughest challenges. Our national labs are the solution factories, but you raise this really important point because your work is also in service of the world, just like it says right on your lab shuttles, bringing science solutions to the world. So we want America to lead in developing new cures and new capabilities and new solutions, and then in sharing these advancements with the world. And that means we can tackle global problems like climate change and pandemics. We can tackle them faster and more effectively. So we are eager to collaborate and share with our allies on science and energy. And we've demonstrated this openness since day one. I will say, Mike, since I last saw you, I've been to Ukraine and back, and I met with the ministers in energy from a whole slew of countries. And they're all looking to us for solutions. They all want to know, how can you help us? We want to be able to be leaders in our own spaces in clean energy, but they may not have the level of investment in research and technology that we have. So we have a duty, I think, to share with the world. We have a duty, obviously, to do our own work at home and to make sure that our policy reflects getting to net zero carbon emissions by 2050. But then we also have a duty to share that knowledge. And that's exactly what you all have been doing. That's what our mission is. And that's what we're going to continue to do.
So thank you. Thank you for taking some of those questions from some of our star members of our lab community. Before you go, we'd like to give you the chance to announce the winner of our Happy Birthday video contest. So could you do that for us?
I would be happy to. All right, so here it is. I am happy to announce that the winners of the Berkeley Labs 90th birthday video contest are Kelly Johnson, Kelly Pierce, Janie Pinteritz. Yay! Congratulations.
Now get ready for this.
Welcome everybody for this very serious talk.
How many software engineers does it take to change a light bulb? None. That's a hardware issue.
If a plant is sad, do the other plants photosynthesize with it?
What should you do when no one laughs at your science jokes? Keep trying until you get a reaction. And if that doesn't work, then let's wish Lawrence Berkeley National Lab a very happy 90th birthday.
Happy birthday!
And you thought we were only scientists. Secretary, would you like to make any final remarks?
Just thank you so much again for a fabulous tour. I look forward to coming back. Thank you for being, a founder of the world, and I hope you continue to found it on a beautiful August 26th day, 90 years from now. Probably none of us will be here, but our children or our grandchildren will be. And the question is, what is the world that we will have created for them? Lots of pages of books left to write, research, science, experiments left to do, and you all hold the pen. So let's write some good future for them.
Thank you. Thank you for those great remarks. So, well, it's been a wonderful event, and thanks to all the people who contributed so much to it. Thanks to the secretary, both for her visit last week and for participating today, and all of our other participants. And thanks to all the people who have made our year-long 90th anniversary celebration so memorable. I've enjoyed being able to mark this lab milestone. To be in this position for this 90th year has been a thrill. While today's event is the culmination of our celebration, I encourage you to keep an eye out for additional 90th anniversary content on Elements, including our charitable giving campaign, which supports 5 local nonprofit STEM organizations that are helping prepare young scholars to become tomorrow's leaders and problem solvers like those people you heard today. And before we go, let me thank you, the Berkeley Lab community. The most important thing I want to tell you is it is such a privilege to lead this great laboratory and to work with such talented and dedicated teams to bring science solutions to the world every day. It's been the privilege of my life. With that, I'd like to hand it over to Miles and let him take us out.